I'm Linksky, and we're about to jump right back into the next episode. So if you haven't already hit the bell button, go ahead and hit that so that we can stay notified when we release all of our spooky stuff for October. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. All right, jumping back for a minute, because we never really disclosed what happened with Steph at the beginning of the driveway. We had made it down the hill and in the first video, and in the second video, we end up going to the secret fields. Well, right in between both of those, she actually was explaining something that happened to her the night prior, and it kind of correlates with something that happened to me as well. She had this nightmare where she was just going down this really dark road, kind of overgrown. The trees were hanging over the road. You couldn't really see the sky. And her and Chanel ended up going into this place. And in her dream, I didn't want to go in for some reason, one way or another. So I just didn't go in, apparently. And she ends up going in with Chanel. And somewhere down the path, she starts feeling like she becomes sick. And then she can't breathe. Eventually ends up collapsing to the ground. And ends up coming to get me to go in there to go help her. And that's essentially where the dream ends. She felt like that she was basically being possessed. Well, that same night, I ended up having I'm not going to say a nightmare or anything, because there was nothing dark about it. It was just going down this driveway. It was almost like, imagine a camera that was just floating down this road. There's no like bob for anybody walking or anything. And it was just this ominous silence as we like got further and further in. But it's just weird that we both had a dream about essentially this driveway. It's one thing for me to have the dream because I've been there before. Steph has never been in this area before. She's never ventured out that way before. So for her to literally see it like frame for frame exactly how she saw it in her nightmare, there's things that we just can't explain, and that's the whole point of this. Like, we're just giving you what we found and what we experienced. So take it for what it is. All right, as we enter the secret fields, there is a trail that leads from the main road down this path and maybe like 500 feet down, and then there's like this little parking spot that you can kind of park in, maybe fit like 7 cars in. There's no actual parking spots. It's just kind of a circle where you can go in, turn around, and leave. It's basically a one lane road. And as we're walking up on that, there's a bunch of trees and stuff off to our left-hand side, and there are 2 paths on the left-hand side, and they all venture back to kind of where we entered. And off to our right, there is a giant field that has like stalks of something, maybe it's just high grass. I never really walked through it because there's no path, and I don't feel like getting covered in ticks. There was so much fog this night, you couldn't see 10 feet in front of you. And the only time that's ever happened is when I went down there for my very first time years ago. So that already put me into a weird place, just having my little dream, then going back down there because of this. And I kept telling everybody, I don't want to go down there because I keep feeling like something's going to follow us back. And every time I had gone down there, something happened and managed to make its way out of the woods and all the way up the hills. This night, we ended up getting over there. I ended up helping with operating Chanel's camera right at the beginning because we were having some technical issues. We're already a decent ways down the path. I handed Matt the tape recorder, so he was using something. The only person who wasn't using anything at this point was Stephanie. She's just kind of like walking near Chanel, maybe a little bit ahead of her at certain times, maybe like 15, 20 feet at most. So there's some distance, but not all that much distance. And right after I get Chanel's camera operating, I'm behind her on her left-hand side. And Steph is all the way in front of us, about, like I said, maybe about 20 feet. And to her right, as that's where Matt is. He's the farthest one on the right-hand part of the path. It's a straight up white apparition, and we have no idea what the hell it is. To me, it almost reminds me of Ed from Ed, Edd n Eddy, like the really, really weird neck and then like no jaw whatsoever. We were trying to debunk it. We were trying to like contort our arms in different ways. Maybe it somehow picked something up. But with me being behind Chanel and Steph being in front of her and Matt over on the right-hand side, there's nobody this could have been. As this thing goes from right to left, the trajectory in which it's moving is going straight towards Steph. And 37 seconds later, she starts complaining about her stomach hurting. Take a look at the footage. Let us know what you think or if you hear anything. All right, Chanel is now recording. We've been having technical difficulties for some reason, one thing or another.
You okay? Yeah?
What'd you say?
Just randomly? Her stomach's starting to hurt.
Her stomach's starting to hurt?
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the night, we were getting EVPs, some really indecipherable, as well as like these really weird, loud banging noises that none of us were reacting to. None of us actually audibly heard it, but on the recordings, you go back and you hear these things, and certain ones have echoes. It's abruptly loud, and we were all on our guard because, like, we're surrounded by the woods. We got an EVP of something saying my name. It originally sounded like somebody was literally in our group trying to get our attention. I thought it might have been Chanel or even Steph, but it was said in such a weird way that, like, they don't normally say my name like that. At this point, the only thing that we have taken notice of is the fact that Steph isn't feeling well. We do attribute that to being part of everything that's going on. She felt odd at the driveway, and she feels even worse now being in the field. And on our way down, she was the first one to actually hear things start going on in the area. So that's the only thing that we were really focused on. We're on the trail now, entering the actual woods, not the trail leading up to it. And we're in that little parking lot area. There's a path directly in front of us that will eventually go all the way straight and then bend to the right and go all the way down. And on that trail, off to the left-hand side, there's a few houses because it goes along the back part of a suburb, and then it delves into the actual woods. And that's where I normally had gone before, but I wanted to spice things up and kind of like, if I was going back and dealing with this shit again, I wanted to try something new. I didn't want to do the same thing that I've always done. So instead of going straight, we went and took the path that went to the right, that went deeper into the woods, and then finally would end up going left and go all the way down, and everything in between this giant boxed in area is what we would call the secret field. We decided to go down the right hand path, and I'm leading the group. Chanel's behind me, Steph's behind her, and then Matt's in the back. At times, he's right next to Steph. So we're walking in, and the entire time, we're all feeling this feeling of being watched. They kind of trailed over from the driveway, in a way. It felt like something was at the end of that driveway, and if we were to go any further, something was about to come out at us. But these woods are deeper than where that driveway would go, and it's also the only property that's right next to the woods on that side. We're at this point, technically heading in the direction of the driveway. I start getting this feeling like I shouldn't look to my left. And me being me, I ended up just, all right, well, I'm going to turn to my left. There's a face that ends up appearing. It's an optical illusion, I know this, but the feeling that came off this, like I was supposed to see it. It was almost like I don't know, I don't want to say a warning, but it was very off-putting. Let me put it like that. It's off-putting.
Sorry, I lost my footing. It's uneven right there. Sorry, I lost my footing. It's uneven right there.
Maybe just a few seconds later, you actually end up hearing everybody, with the exception of me, start smelling this metallic smell.
Do you smell metallic?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, super stuff.
smell me?
Yes. Yes, I
Yeah.
can smell it.
Like, super strong. Do you smell me?
Yes. Yes, I
Yeah.
can smell it.
Like, super strong.
If there was anything out there, we took that as maybe a way to like GTFO at this point. We ended up turning around and heading back out. It was at this point on our way out, we started really getting the loud hits and loud bangs and everything that we didn't hear with our own ears. There's one that happens right as we exit the path back into the parking area.
I believe people live back there. That path leads to the back of people's houses. I believe people live back there. That path leads to the back of people's houses. It's creepy.
Now the parking area, like I said, kind of scoops out like this, almost like an oval from the way that we're looking. So as we walk out, the exit of this entire park is to our left after it curves back like this and then goes that way. So Chanel and Steph end up going to the left over by where the exit is, and they're kind of standing off to the side. Matt is now kind of in front of the entrance to the path that we just got off of. And as I'm walking out, I thought I saw something to my right. And so I ended up turning the camera, and because it almost looked like a light had passed through the woods, like a light or maybe, I don't know, a figure or something. But I turn to my right, and there's this like little water spigot that's over there. So I turn towards that, and I think that this little opening ends up going back maybe another 20 or 30 feet, but it doesn't. It only went back maybe like 2 or 3 feet. So I'm just staring in the area where I saw this thing. Nothing's really happening, but I start getting this really odd feeling like I'm being watched. And in this area right over here is where I had originally seen this like really white face just like kind of pop out and stare at me and my friends as we were already leaving one of the original times. I react to something that's not picked up on the camera, but it sounded like something had walked up behind me and maybe like broke a stick or something. As I'm staring at it, just a few seconds later, Chanel ends up telling me that we need to go. Steph is feeling now that she's being squeezed internally. I turned and I ended up walking back towards them. And as I turn, I'm a good 50, 60 feet away from them at this point because they're all the way by the entrance and I'm all the way on the other end of this over in between both paths. They're more off to my right as I'm walking. And then you see Matt out of the darkness kind of walk up and then join me, and because I was closer to Matt. On Chanel's camera, when she goes to tell us to like come back over, there's a fucking face. There is a face that shoots across the screen from right to left again. It almost looked like I had glasses, but nothing was distinct. It had these like dark lines right here and about right here, which if anything, they would be like my glasses. My glasses look like this. So kind of like square-ish. They're not like the big ones. He's got big glasses. He's also got curly hair and a beard. And nothing was picked up for hair-wise. It looked like this person was bald. It looked like there was absolutely no facial hair. There were only lines right here. There's nothing on the side or anything. And it goes so quick past the camera. You have to go frame by frame, just like the first one. If you blink, you miss it.
What? Alright.
Then, bet. Come on. I don't like the way Steph's feeling.
Now, I know what a lot of people are going to be thinking is that, okay, could it have been you guys for whatever reason? No. for one very, very specific reason. The light that is casting for the night vision can't reach the distance where we are. If you watch as we're walking in the woods and we're panning by the trees, we kind of have to get a little bit closer to the trees in order to even see much of anything. Walking through, the light bounces off of certain things, and you'll be able to see a lot more. The distance between where we were and where the girls were, the light wouldn't be able to pick it up like that, even if you were zoomed in. Right there is where Steph felt like her stomach began to hurt, and the weird white figure that was right over there. We went down that path. That path is the one that normally went down, but we didn't decide to go that way. And when we came out, Matt was standing about right there. I was all the way over here in that little like nook, and the girls were all the way over here. All the way over here. And the distance between that is a good, actually more than I thought before, probably like a good 100 feet. Like, it's pretty big over here. Like, this whole thing's the parking lot. But something to keep in mind for the distance when it comes to that whole night vision thing. Whatever it was that passed in front of that camera had to have been within feet of them, not 50 feet away. When Steph was feeling like she was being squeezed, we all became much more concerned. We ended up beelining it out of there. Just get on the path, let's just go. I stayed more in the back with Matt while the girls took precedence and getting out of there. They're a considerable distance away from us. They're maybe like 60, 70 feet, trying to get them closer to the exit while we stayed behind to make sure that there was nothing behind us following us or anything. On our way out, you end up hearing a voice scream to us for help. We have no idea where the hell this came from. That was none of us, and it literally sounded like somebody was screaming it, but like it didn't register fully as if somebody was screaming. It's really hard to describe it. We cross-reference it. We don't hear anything on the other camera. I kept thinking that there was somebody behind us on the path, so I kept turning around. And at one point, I thought I saw an apparition, like a shadow or something, of somebody standing out on the path. It made my heart jump, so I ended up looking back that way. Again, we didn't hear the scream by any means. We have no idea where that came from. It was none of us. Nothing was done in editing. It's never done in editing. Whatever we get is what we get. If we don't have something and it's bunk, then it's bunk. There's no point in making some fake shit for people to believe in. If you want a jump scare, go somewhere else. As I'm looking back, Matt's in between with the tape recorder. Chanel is up front. As she's facing towards the road, you start hearing these really, really heavy footsteps behind her, like getting closer and closer, like it's faster than how they're walking. And Matt and I are a good distance away from them. Like I said, maybe 60, 70 feet at this point. You hear this thing get closer and closer and closer. And it sounds like it tries to smack the fucking camera out of her hands. Right after it hits it, you don't hear its footsteps anymore, like it retreated. You don't hear anything. It just goes away. Now we're walking back up the hill. Obviously, we're all on edge because of everything that happened. We keep feeling like we're being watched, like somebody's following us. And then next thing you know, Steph feels so nauseous that she basically collapses on the side of the road.
What, you're back now?
Okay?
She was just starting to feel nauseous, too. That felt way worse than the other.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Chanel ends up helping her. We help her back up, and we're walking back up. Matt hears something off in the woods, which he says it sounds like a man-made bird call or something like that. Like, just, it sounded distorted. So, you know, that could be attributed to anything.
Look at my listening.
It sounded like a high-pitched one. Almost like a bird call, but not like any bird I've ever heard. Way off the distance, like in back there.
And then I react to something on camera where I quickly do a 180 again because I hear something that sounds like a jaguar or a cougar or like a large cat, like a feline in some fashion. You turn around and there's nothing there. And this is roughly the same area where I had been chased up the hill before.
I know. I'm right here.
And Matt starts hearing footsteps on our left-hand side as we're coming up the hill in the woods. Like whatever was out there was following us. And he said it didn't sound like an animal. It sounded heavy. Like it was breaking sticks. It was following us.
Well, that was a chance for it to talk to us.
Sorry, I heard something.
What'd you think you heard?
Footsteps.
Really?
Yeah.
Not on the road. It was like a footstepping.
In the woods?
Through the woods.
In the woods?
Through the woods.
And then we finally make it back up to the top of the hill. This is where the last thing happens. We're on the left-hand side of the road now because the woods had ended up stopping maybe 100 feet back at this point. There were like 2 or 3 houses on the left-hand side. And the next thing you know, we just start smelling this horrible, rotten, dead stench, like the stench of decay. And it was so strong. It obviously didn't help with Steph feeling nauseous already. And even after we got away from it, we finally made it up to this 4-way intersection, which is a considerable distance amount from where we were. She still could smell it. It almost seemed like whatever was happening strictly to her.
Yeah, I smelled that too.
Mm-hmm. It's always a good sign.
Can you blame them? I'd have like spotlights on every side of the house. Can you blame them? I'd have like spotlights on every side of the house.
She was saying that she was feeling a little bit better the farther away we got from the secret fields. She wasn't really giving us detailed answers on how she was feeling or what she wanted to do. It finally came to a point where we were at an intersection. It's like, okay, we could either venture all the way back to my place or we could go to a different location. It's either point A or point B. We ended up going with point B, and point B was the most haunted room in my house.
And the smell and the weird feeling down the path. Wanting to walk down.
That one path that you said goes behind houses.
Uh-huh.
I don't like looking at that.
No. Well, that was the original path that we would normally go down, but we decided to go down the new one this time. So did you guys want to go back, or did you guys want to continue?
Huh?
Going back or continuing? That was really overwhelming, dude.
That energy just like went all over.
But now you know what I'm talking about. Like, fuck that shit.
I was starting to feel how I felt in my dream.
That was really overwhelming, dude.
That energy just like went all over.
But now you know what I'm talking about. Like, fuck that shit.
I was starting to feel how I felt in my dream.
I think this definitely is one of those learning moments where if you're even questioning something about following your gut instinct, follow your gut instinct because it's going to be right. I didn't want to go down there because I thought something was going to follow back. And I always attributed that specifically straight to me just because of everything that I had gone through, which there will be episodes on that. What happened to Steph is just absolutely terrifying. That was the end of the secret fields. The stuff that happened with Steph took place on September 13th, and today it is September 27th. And things are still happening to her. We are still on the road to recover because of all of this. I'm still experiencing weird shit happening with my cameras, with the lights. My fan turned on and off the other day in front of me and Chanel. We're all having weird things happen to us because of this night. but Steph takes the cake on what happened. And you guys will see that in the next episode. If you haven't already done it, go ahead and hit the bell button so that way you can be notified when we drop our next episode, as well as the next upcoming episodes, because we're hoping to have a plethora of spooky stuff for you guys to actually enjoy, and not just some 5-minute stuff that we've done, but longer investigations, and hopefully time will be on our side when it comes to that. For all of you who have liked this, shared, subscribed, and everything, we appreciate everything that you do. Thank you so much. I'm Linksky, and we'll see you next time.